IVM.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Techlife at Intuit. Hi Anshu and Manish, how are you both doing?
You're doing great.
Hey,
Thank you.
Yeah, doing great.
Thank you so much for being with us today. We have quite an interesting chat ahead of us actually. And, both of you, of course, have been at Intuit for some time now. You're both hardcore techies, as I might want to oversimplify it, building a lot of cool, interesting things. And given our topic today is obviously around how Intuit is building like a global technology platform. I'd really like to start with asking you a little bit about your personal journeys, right? As engineers, as technologists, what has led to the role that you have today here at Intuit? And if you want to go start, Manish, maybe.
Yeah, sure. I can go first. Thanks. First of all, thanks for having us here. My journey started out. I'm from Mumbai, and just like many, I went abroad to do masters, and then had a chance to work in a few companies in Silicon Valley. And then at some point, when you're abroad, you have to make a choice. You want to be close to family, or you want to continue there. And we were sort of going back and forth three times to be precise. And then, Intuit was a great learning experience. Really, I learned how to build great products. And I'm sure we're going to talk a little bit about that. And I'm going to share a few examples. And that's what got me here today.
Awesome. What about yourself, Anshu?
Hey, so I'm originally from Kolkata. If you know about Kolkata, like laid back, sit, relax, and that is what my nature is. And after college, I got actually fascinated with the ability to be able to create something. Like as engineers, we have this like unique ability to create things, and that got me fascinated and attracted towards technology, engineering, and trying to actually build for customers. And that one thing, bringing a smile to the customers, solving their customer problems in a better, simpler, and a faster way, is what has actually kept me going. And I've been with Intuit for 14 years now, and I've got this opportunity like every day. With the transformation that we are driving at Intuit. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation and talk about what we do at Intuit and how we do it.
Yeah, just to take on from there, Anshu, I mean, you've been here 14 years. You've obviously seen the, company sort of go through so many phases, or not just the company, I would say the tech ecosystem at large, right? I mean, the last 14 years, you could take any number, say the last 3 years have been formative, last 5 years have been formative, to be honest. 14 years is actually multiple cycles in tech, as they would say, right? What has been sort of, the focus areas where you or the Intuit as a company has sort of driven a lot of this innovation in the tech ecosystem? If you can share a little bit of that.
Yeah, I'll start off like the only side effect of saying 14 years and long is that I'm actually aged. But outside of that, like I think I've been blessed to see multiple transformations across the industry as well as and primarily at Intuit. And just so that the core thing about Intuit is that we are a very mission-driven company, and our mission is to power prosperity around the world. That one statement keeps us going, and everything that we do is around that particular mission statement. And we do this through a global technology platform that helps us connect our customers and the communities and drive their financial lives. And that is what we really focus on. If you really look at Intuit, like we have a history of constant disruption. We have a history of constant rethinking and reimagining ourselves. Like we call ourselves like a 35-plus-year-old startup. And we have gone through the eras of, like DOS to Windows to global to mobile and, to cloud. Mm-hmm. And now when we look at, the whole world and how, COVID and everything else has accelerated, we are really looking at like, what do we really do, to digitize and automate and make it simpler, for our customers for future. And that is where we've been thinking about and doing a lot of work on, what we actually call as the AI-driven expert platform. wherein like the data of the customers that we have small business, we have self-employed, we have mid-market, we have consumers, then we have accountants, developers, and the experts. How do we actually build an ecosystem around them, connect them, with each other, and give them, experiences that they have not experienced before, and be as smart as possible? And that has been the huge journey that we are on right now, and a lot of innovation actually happening around it.
And when you say this is a AI driven platform, right? I mean, obviously you guys have been powering your mission, right? Which you just shared
Yeah.
for so long. You've been building these very core financial products. There's so much data that you have seen over the years, and customers, financial data which customers sort of rely on with you. How has, could you elaborate a little bit more about how this AI platform sort of enhances that or helps customers a little more directly with the goal that you just mentioned?
Yeah, let me take that, and Manish, feel free to add to it. So let's take an example here, right? Like, so we have millions of customers actually filing taxes, but do we actually know how it is done? Let's take a step back and look at what is going on, behind the scene. Now, if you look at the taxes, we have 80,000 pages of these tax codes that you have to look at. 5,000 plus rules, 800 plus forms. And by the way, this is just federal tax in US. If I add state tax, this sort of, multiplies, monumentally. Now to that, we add the unique situation of the consumers, how they categorize their expenses, how will they look at a particular expenses that they can actually get, the tax benefit. Now, all of this, like traditionally what we would have done, we would have actually hand coded all of these. And every year when these change, we would have again hand coded. And we know when we actually build this, the traditional way, what we would get, there are human errors, there is accuracy issues, and every customer is treated exactly the same. But that is not how we are. This is where we said that, we have to take a step back. We have this like huge amount of data of our customers. What can we do differently? And that is where the whole concept of the AI expert-driven platform sort of came in as well. And we started to think about knowledge engineering. We asked ourselves this question, like, could we emulate the judgment of a behavior of a human by figuring out a way to codify these rules? And that is what we did. So we codified all of these rules in our knowledge engineering and defined the relationship between the data as knowledge graphs. Now, with that, what we really got is we got a very scalable, reliable, and explainable way of doing things for our customers. And then we matched this with the already filed tax data that we have, their unique financial situations, applied NLP and machine learning on top of it, and built models so that now the customers can sort of go through and file their taxes. And in the end, the reason we were doing it is because we wanted to power prosperity, and we can give some money back to our customers. Right. And that is the KE into the AI, ML, and NLP has actually driven that particular innovation.
Wow.
And there are many such examples.
All of this this was actually a great example. It's something which, regardless of what country you're in, it's something you have to deal with, right? Taxes are just, I don't think any company or any country has it simple, saying just pay X and you're done, right? Everything has so many structures, and obviously software and technology has to help there. But I think what I really, found compelling is that all of your innovation is driven again in the direction of, saving money for people or sending, helping them with their wealth and helping them with gains. Very interesting. Manish, do you want to add to that? I mean, exactly.
Yeah, sure. So, like you said, we are laser sharp focused on the mission of, powering prosperity around the world. And Anshu talked about, the technology and the data and the opportunity that gives us. Let me also add to that in terms of the behavior of the users. Users, the way they interact with products is going to change in next 5-10 years. For example, you see conversation user interface. People are getting comfortable, going to chatbots rather than picking a phone and calling people to resolve issues. In tax filing, you can imagine at some point you're in the middle of a screen and you have a question like, okay, how much did I spend on XYZ? Rather than clicking buttons or typing keywords and leaving your current screen and looking at something else to find that data, you might just ask that and get the answer back. So this is a lot more dynamic, and for us to support these kind of interactions, how we write app has to change. It's not just a matter of building the app traditionally and then just adding AI on top. So that's why we as developers, we have to adopt this AI first mindset by default, and we have to think about it from get go when we start building apps.
And this is actually something, I've spoken to a few other colleagues of yours at Intuit in the previous episode. And I remember you guys have this, again, sort of product development theme of design for delight, where, again, all of this is aimed at amazing consumer delight. The entire product experience should sort of give you that, the wow factor, as you would say. How do you bring that into something like taxes, or anything else for that example? You know, it's not a delightful experience, I can imagine, but it's a necessary job everyone has to do. I'd really like to know if you can share some of the design thinking or the product development innovation that you guys did in trying to solve.
Sure, I can lead with this here, and then Anshu can add in. So before I talk about examples, and I'm happy to share one of my personal example, but before I do that, let me just quickly touch upon the two core principles of customer-driven innovation and design for delight. So our co-founder, Scott Cook, he basically looked at all the common characteristics of all the successful products at Intuit. And he identified three core characteristics, which is to focus on big unsolved customer problems that we can solve well and build a durable advantage. So this is the lens we use when we try to decide what opportunities we should pursue, what ideas or what problems we should pursue. The next part, design for delight, is the how part, which is once you identified the problem or a space, how do you go about innovation? And here we have a few guiding principles where we gain deep customer empathy. We fall in love with the customer problem, not the solution. And we also get customer involved from very beginning in this what we call as rapid experiments to validate our assumptions or to accelerate our learning. And let me just explain this with one of my own examples. There was a project I worked on some time back. It was called TextWeb. It was a messaging platform to make products and services on the web available on SMS. So I'm talking about back in days when data plan was not cheap or not even available in many parts of India. And we decided there is a big opportunity here, underserved market, a lot of people staying in tier 2, tier 3 cities, and they don't necessarily have access to these smartphones or the expensive data plans. So what if we could allow them to navigate and access services on the web through simple SMS back and forth interactions? So with these principles in mind, we first started by just creating a simple prototype just to understand the mental model of that user interaction. Is it even feasible when people are interacting over SMS? Can we create an interaction which is usable? And we tested that with some of our own internal users, and we got a little bit of confidence. So then we invited a group of students from here, a local engineering college in Bangalore, and we asked them to build apps on our platform. Within 4 hours, they had built 50 or 60 apps. So one more check, we validated that it's possible to build apps on our platform. Next, we wanted to validate if this solution is useful to our customers. And some of us were actually, myself, I was in US at that time, and one of my colleagues was in Canada, and a few other members in India. So we took the trip down to Bangalore from US and Canada and joined our team in India. And we went to nearby villages, and we just wanted to observe and learn how the users there interact over phone. Our initial target users were those kind of people, and we thought they'll benefit from apps like weather and news. So we asked them, show us, how do you use messaging app? And the very first thing, we noticed was they just hand us the phone and say, you check it out yourself. And we found that a little bit odd, like, why we just want to observe. And then we looked at the phone and we spoke to them. We realized that actually they were not comfortable using the keypad. And so that was one important surprise in our mind. And on the same trip, before we went back to US, we also met with the same group of students who had earlier built apps on our platform. So we went to the college, and we learned that some of the students were saying, "Hey, I love using your Wikipedia app." Again, this was an app that I had written just as a sample app. It was never meant to be the app for our target users. But here the students were telling us, look, before we have a company interview, this helps me check on the details about the company. We said, good. There was another group of students who came and said, well, we used to have this campus placement schedule. We used to post it on a notice board outside our classroom or that head of the department. They have moved that to our platform. So the students at, let's say, 6 o'clock in the evening, they could just check on our platform what is that schedule for the next day. They don't have to physically come to the head of department to check on that. So we went back and we reflected on all our learnings, and we realized that the users we had in mind, maybe this is not the right solution, because if they are not even comfortable using the keypad, how are they going to access these apps? And we found that a surprise that the students who we thought they would, why would they consider, they have access to net cafes and other areas, why would they use this? And out to our surprise, they were actually using it and loving it. So we pivoted to cater to this user base of students, and that turned out to be a key learning in our journey. And the TextWeb platform eventually grew to 11 million mobile users across 1,000 cities in India, and they were using one or more of 5,000 apps that were built by developers. So in a nutshell, if I have to summarize, our customer-driven innovation and design for delight principles, they help us focus on delivering customer benefits, and they help us accelerate learning by running rapid experiments.
Wow. I mean, Anshu, do you want to add to that? This whole story was so amazing, right? The fact that you all took a engineering team back into actual, like I would say, tier 2, tier 3 markets. And you're talking about, Manish, what year was this, if you recollect, or what time frame?
This was around 2010.
Yeah, this is pre all the cool internet stuff, pre-mobile internet for sure. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it is really cool. And I just want to add one more thing. I think, like, when we are actually thinking about our customers, we are not just thinking about the customers' problems today. We're actually thinking about customer problems of tomorrow and the future. And not just like by going in to and meeting the customers, even within our engineering teams. And I remember couple of years ago, and I know, Manish, you may not even remember this conversation, we were actually thinking of like how to actually automate everything for our mid-market customers. And myself, Manish, and a couple of other technical leaders, like it was a room full of people. We were like debating the whole day. Like, okay, this is what customer needs, this is what we will actually do. And we wanted to actually take a technology decision. And I remember those words, that were used by Manish, that okay, this will work today, but I bet in 2 years you're going to come back and have to read it because it will not work for tomorrow. And I told Manish, like, Manish, are you telling me or are you scaring me? Because we have to take a decision today about what this means. The reason I'm sharing is because the customer obsession and how we are thinking about the customers of today and tomorrow, and taking those decisions. And sometimes those decisions are actually hard. And then we decided that, oh, you know what? One solution will not work. We actually need multiple solutions to this particular problem. And we actually decided to go and experiment with our customers. So that's the philosophy sort of, ingrained in every conversation that we have, whether we meet our customers or whether the engineers are sort of, having debates about what the future would look like.
That's a good point for me to ask my next question, Anshu. And this is just to, stay on that point for a little bit. As engineers, right? As a product development team, an engineering team, a tech team, you guys usually, and this is rare, that's why I mention it, at least to my knowledge, it's rare that engineering teams usually talk to customers, right? Or rather get to interface at such depth with what customer problems are. And it's usually a few degrees of separation until it comes to engineering teams. And this point of technology that you mentioned, right, about choosing what technology to build this on, what kind of stack to use, what kind of platform to take ahead, knowing how future proof it can be. What kind of what kind of opportunities do teams at your at your end get in Intuit to work on such things? Like, what's the kind of culture of working on newer technologies, trying stuff out, experimentation? If you could share a little bit about that.
Yeah, this is again a very a topic very close to my heart. Again, I'll start off with the same statement that we actually ended the previous one. We fall in love with the customer problem, and the technology is actually used as an enabler for that. Like, for example, I'll give you an example. As we all know, right? Like, we are 35 plus year old company, right? Like, we have software, and everybody knows that software gets dated as things actually move.
Yeah.
But we have to constantly evolve, and our tech stack is like as modern as it can get, and obviously continuously evolving. Now, one of the things that we realized about 6-7 years ago, that we have to get agility and nimbleness and drive velocity in how we actually build our products. We need to sort of unlock innovation so that every engineer can actually do it. So what we really did is we took this particular bold step of saying that we will move completely to the cloud. Like, we had our own in-house hosting, and it took us about 400 odd applications, if I remember the number correctly, with highly sensitive data, sort of moving all of those to AWS. And it is just not about lift and shift. It is modernizing of our complete tech stacks. In many cases, we just left whatever was there on the in-house hosting to completely rewriting our technology. And it took us about 6 years, but it was a bold move that we actually did. And the benefit of that is now every engineer, all of this AWS ecosystem and cloud native is actually available to them, and they can experiment. Any new, for example, these days, Tiger Graph and Graph DBs are there. So if there's a customer problem, our customers are actually looking for it. So when we're thinking about, let's say, how do we build a network for our customers? We are on cloud. We can actually quickly experiment using the cloud native technologies and sort of move faster over there. And that has been the philosophy. We look at a problem and see how we can actually become better. For example, recently we've been doing this particular massive push towards reactive microservices, and we've been using Kafka. And we see Pulsar, which is if I can say Kafka plus, it gives you better asynchronous communication. Our engineers are actually experimenting with it, and we are, over a period of time, we'll actually migrate. And there are a bunch of examples like this. The other two that sort of close to my heart is GraphQL. We had to build everything which is mobile ready, which can be available on web, can be available on desktop, as well as to our developers. So we actually adopted GraphQL, and this was even before GraphQL had just come in. And we adopted React. React was even beta. I still remember 0.10 of React, and people said it's beta. How do we actually use beta in production? And we said, our engineers said, no, this is the right way. If we have to build for mobile, if we have to build for web and for all the customs for future, let's just go and adopt. And we have been pioneers in GraphQL and in React. And I think 2014 or 13 is when we started actually play around with React and put it in production.
That is
in front of our customers, and including GraphQL as well.
Oh, I know. Especially on the React front, I definitely know it's still one of the newer mobile technologies people consider adopting and building on. So 2014 is eons ago in tech parlance.
Some people will remember. I just want to add one more thing. Some people will remember the jump that React actually made, and that is how technologies actually make jump. React came from 0.10 to React 15 in one shot. They actually, jumped 15 major versions when they actually released, and that was unheard of in the industry. And we were glad that we were at the forefront of it. And again, thanks to the engineers, at Intuit who sort of, led the way.
Yeah, so great. Let me add to that. So Anshu gave great examples about the technology, and let me build on that to also talk about how we work at Intuit. So at Intuit, we say that innovation is everyone's job. And what we mean by that is all our new hires, from interns to full-time employees to seniors, and even people who are in different functions outside of engineering, all our new hires learn about customer-driven innovation and design for delight in the onboarding process.
Mhm.
And then throughout the year, all employees are given opportunities to self-organize into teams and apply these techniques to experiment their own ideas. So again, let me give you my own example. I paired up with an engineer in Canada team to experiment with Bitcoin payment for QuickBooks Invoice. And we said, let's see if people would be interested. So we implemented the idea in QuickBooks, just two of us, using the built-in product hooks. And mind you, this is not our main project. So this is just something we are doing during hackathon or outside of our day job. And then we tested this with real customers by making the experimental feature available via QuickBooks Labs. So at Intuit, we have a saying that code wins arguments and customer breaks ties. So what we do is we use customer-backed thinking when we make decisions, and we empower our engineers to validate new features and product ideas directly with customers. And so that's what we do each and every day at Intuit.
Wow. And all of this is, of course, we mentioned at the start that you guys are building this out of India. It's a global sort of technology platform, right? The Intuit platform is massive, so many products. Primary markets still remain, the markets in Americas and other places, where India is not a served market. But the innovation and all of this is happening. A lot of it, if not all of it, is from this massive engineering team that you guys have built here. What kind of what's the global impact that someone who joins the team here can hope to have? Like you just shared this example, this was a great one, right? Does everyone in the team sort of get that sort of opportunity? Anshu or Manish, either of you?
Manish, do you want to take or do you want me to?
Yeah, sure. I can start off. So, whatever we do has a global visibility, and we also experiment with global ideas. So me personally, if I have a lot of stories, so we won't have enough time, but uh, I have also worked in global business division, and that was my first job at Intuit, how I got hired in India. We actually experimented with products in India and building from ground up. And as part of that, I did Follow Me Homes here in Bangalore, Mumbai, Delhi, Ahmedabad. We came back with our learnings, we experimented. So we are continuously testing in new markets, including India. In terms of the impact, let me give you an example. So what we have now, this virtual expert platform, which is a unique sort of platform where it allows experts to collaborate with individuals, be it tax filing or running business, and complements your product experience. It actually started out as one of the prototype or proof of concept done by one engineer here in Intuit India office. His name is Niranjan, and he showcased that idea first time in this hackathon. And little we did know that eventually that idea will catch business units attention, and then find opportunity, and now it's turned into a real product. So like I said, all these hackathons opportunities that we get and the avenues we have in our product allows us to test, or allows any engineer into it to test idea anywhere in the world, wherever we have presence. So that way, geography is not the constraint for us.
And if I
Wow.
can sort of, add, onto that, but first of all, I'll start with like a shameless plug. We've been, 5 years consecutively in the top three, and this year ranked number 3. And the reason I'm actually saying this and having this shameless plug is because of the impact that we are able to actually create here globally, like while sitting in India. And this is, as we know, this whole survey is done bottoms up, which where the engineers sort of say how they actually feel about the technology and the company. So That
Yeah.
is in a sense the outcome or a way to sort of say what kind of global impact we are having. Now, taking a step back, like the way we look at like Intuit India is a technology and engineering like innovation center for Intuit. It's a very strategic center, and we use the term like a microcosm of Intuit because like every business unit or a team has some form of presence over here. And not just the presence, we believe in the end-to-end ownership of the customer problem. And what that does is that actually gives you empowerment and the ability to be able to innovate. Just my personal story, like when I joined in 2007, I was actually leading a product called QuickBooks Online. We were managing and building that particular product end to end just from India. Today, we have 1,500 engineers across the globe working on QuickBooks Online, with the majority of the team still in India. The QuickBooks, globalization from just being a US-centric product to be available worldwide was driven, solely from India. And there are many such examples. And the way we have organized ourselves is that in Intuit, we have this concept of strategic capabilities. And we build those capabilities, and those capabilities will serve all different customer types across the globe. So irrespective of wherever you are, you're actually building for the whole world. And we have multiple teams which are leading like multiple strategic capabilities in India, which gives the whole opportunity for our engineers to have a global impact. And combine this with the customer driven innovation that Manish talked about. It's like a opportunities galore, and that is what has kept me or Manish for so long at Intuit. Like every day we wake up, there is something new or some big problem to actually solve, with like full power, full empowerment, and ownership that comes from India.
No, that's amazing. And the survey you mentioned, the Great Place to Work survey ranking that you mentioned, obviously is a testament to that. Including since you mentioned that, I want to ask just a small comment on how that transition. Right, we are now post the 2020 pandemic. Uh, the place to work is no longer the office, right?
Yeah.
The place to work is screens like this from homes. How are you guys seeing that sort of shift while still maintaining culture?
Yeah, and I would say it's hard. First of all, I think we all have to acknowledge it is hard. It is not what we all want to do. I never thought that there would be a term called office sick. We used to call homesick. But now there's a word like office sick. We really want to go to the offices. We really want to actually meet people. But the challenges that have been thrown in front of us, we have actually taken that as an opportunity. And I think what we have done is we sort of proved that you don't have to sit in a particular room to deliver customer outcomes. Like if we look at the velocity of the customer outcomes that we have, it has actually grown over pandemic. While there was a dip, but I think the team sort of quickly realized what they need to do. And our IT teams and all the teams across the whole facilities team, like everybody has contributed in some way for us to be able to make this particular collaboration easier. As a company, like Intuit has given us a lot. Like we have ergonomic desks, we have chairs, we have like everything that can be given to a particular engineer to make their life easy. And then what we have done is like different teams have innovated in their own ways. Like people have actually blocked time in their calendar saying that this is my travel time. So like virtually you're saying that like 9 to 9:30 a.m. I'm actually traveling to office.
Oh,
So
wow.
it gives you time. Some teams have innovated, and I've actually adopted. This is like every meeting starts 5 minutes late. We know we can never finish a meeting early, so you start a meeting 5 minutes late. So that gives you like at least because in the new world, you can't say that, hey, I'm running late to office. Like you have to go and use your restroom, or you have to do certain things. So I think that is where Intuit has actually come in, and as a company, like huge amount of compassion and empathy, understanding the whole problems of our employees and making sure that they actually feel supported. If people want to take time off, they can actually take time off, and there are a bunch of other things that we're actually doing, to support the team. Lastly, like last few months have been not great in India. And I think the company and the leadership all across the globe has actually stood up and said that it's okay. We can take some time off, for family. Everybody is going through a lot of, challenges. even like deliverables, etc. It's okay is what we have actually heard, and we've communicated to the engineers that it's okay to miss things. But family and your personal health is most important. And that is what you have to first, prioritize and take care. So, thankful to Intuit. I personally have benefited a lot from it, and I'm sure many others have also, benefited. And Manish, feel free to sort of, add, but yeah.
No, I'll just add that, in addition to everything that Anshu said about the company, I'll just say what I miss is, well, it's a mixed bag. So let me first say that, there are things that have worked well, because in past, there were certain meetings that we had to do with US folks, and it was given that we have to travel to US and be in the room and to do those kind of brainstorming sessions or offsites or those kind of things. Well, we have done that virtually now, and it has worked, right? So maybe this will create that mindset shift that people don't have to leave their homes and family and travel thousands of miles just for one or two meetings. So that's a good thing. What I miss though is that being in the office, and why that is important is that for many of these ideas, they start with a conversation in the elevator or over lunch conversation. The pay by coin example that I just mentioned to you, Clinton and I, we were just catching up over coffee, and we said, we were talking about all different things that are happening in the industry, and he said, yeah, Bitcoin. And I said, yeah, Bitcoin, I'm also curious, so let's experiment. And so I miss that part, because at this point you have to be respectful of people's time. There is a lot going on at home for everybody, so it's very hard to find a common time when you can just have an open-ended conversation and talk about things that are going right. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that when we get back to office.
No, most definitely. I'm sure everyone is. And, this is that whole note resonates so much, I'm sure, throughout the rest of the company, that while all of you are doing such great work, there's so much opportunity and so much, the culture is ingrained in everyone, I would say, of, this, everything you shared today, the fact that you should design for delight, or the fact that you are open to experimentation. While all of that is happening, I'm sure everyone wants the opportunity to come back and sort of meet their friends and colleagues face to face. So I'm hoping, for all our sakes, that is soon, and not we don't spend another year just behind screens. So, right. But yeah. Manish and Anshu, today, thank you so much for this conversation. I genuinely feel that there's so much driving the culture at Intuit, and the massive global engineering platform that you all have built, and some of the stories you shared, and the background you gave, really now makes me understand exactly how this sort of a global platform is still so thriving and successful. And of course, the amazing team that you all have built here out of India. So thank you so much for sharing. This was a lovely chat. Anshu, Manish, I will let you guys get back to your work from home on this day, and look forward to catching up again. Thank you so much.
It was great chatting with you. Thanks for doing this with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
This was fun talking about what we do at Intuit, and thank you so much for this opportunity for to both of us. We look forward to much more. And just like, again, another shameless plug, like careers.intuit.com, we are always looking for great engineers. We are always looking for great talent to come and join us in this particular journey. So please go there and reach out to any one of us, and we'll be happy to connect you.
Absolutely. We're going to share that link again in the notes, and we will hope everyone can go check you out. And of course, if you want to share if you guys are on Twitter or LinkedIn, please go ahead and give a shout out to anyone who wants to reach out to you guys.
Sounds good. And hopefully I'll get to meet you in person when I'm in Mumbai.
Absolutely, Manish. Absolutely. Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey, it's been another great week on the IBM Podcast Network. On the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast, in the first half, Ashwin is joined by Varun to wrap India's ODI tour of Sri Lanka. In the second half, DJ joins the party to discuss the first T20 international between India and Sri Lanka. If you'd like to hear more about this match, former Indian cricketer Sabha Karim joins Rajiv Mishra on Khel Niti and they talk some more about it. Ladies and gentlemen, we're really excited to announce a new show, a show about crypto with Rohan Joshi. He's going to dive deep and demystify all this crypto stuff that we've been hearing about. And let me tell you a little bit more about stuff that's going on the network really quickly. Congratulations to Maru Kinayat, who celebrates 50 episodes of The Note with a discussion on health as a fundamental right. On Paisa Vaisa, Anupam talks to Harsha Chetanwala of mywealthgrow.com. Zarina Poonawala is starting a new miniseries on emotional intelligence. Do check out the kickoff episode on the Empowering series. And Simplified talks about semiconductors. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, if you're enjoying this show, or any other show for that matter, please do tell a friend. That's really helpful for us. And finally, we would like to thank our sponsors on the network this week. They make this all possible. Thank you very much, Ciet, Cred, Global Victoria, Bank of Baroda, Intuit India, Lenovo, and CoinSwitch Kuber. We really appreciate your support.
A wise man once said, traveling, it makes you speechless, then turns you into a storyteller.
Well, listen to such travel stories and experiences exploring India on the Musafir Stories with us, Saif and Faiza.
Catch us on the IVM website, app, or wherever you get your podcasts from.